Because what I want you guys to do is now, instead of having sporadic business success, have a replicatable, repeatable, simple process to generate leads. You could be bad at sales, not great at whatever, have a not great personality, but if you're in front of enough leads, you'd probably sell some stuff. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Okay, so we want to work smarter on this, not harder, and my encouragement is to leverage time and not do everything that you need to, okay? So these are average questions that people usually ask, like, okay, how do I get leads, Joe? How do I post on social media, for example? How do I sell in a down market? And I want to reframe these to better questions because we want to solve the problem with business, right? Does that make sense? We want to create something that's just going to work for forever. So the better question is, how do I get in front of more qualified leads who know me, will choose me over everyone else, and want to talk to me about my business, right? Okay, and how do we utilize technology and systems to do the hard work for you so you can spend more time with people, right? At the end of the day, end of our lives, we're going to remember our relationships, not the back end paperwork, right? Right? We're probably all there, right? How do I sell well in any market? Grant Cardone, there's many people that the market doesn't matter to them, right? They have an audience, they've got the sales process, they have a lead generation method that they can do no matter what is happening in the world, and that's what we want to get to. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's just start simple. I got a question for you. What is a lead? Go real basic. Let's just start. Let's get our terms the same here.
A person.
A person. Okay. Can we get a little more specific? A possibility.
Person could be a lead. Somebody you know.
Someone you know. Okay. Let's go even a little further.
Someone that has 2 arms, 2 legs. It's breathing.
So this is perfect. Susan, thank you for volunteering here. Everybody write this down. A lead needs to be more specific than a person. This is what anyone would say.
I knew that. That's why I said that.
Right? It needs to be more specific than a person, right? But we're in real estate. Anybody that moves probably needs a house someday, right? And so then we're like, we're kind of all over the place, right?
I would say someone you know. Is that the answer? Someone your friend knows. Is that?
How about this?
Someone who knows somebody.
Someone who knows somebody who knows somebody.
So a lead is technically, yes, you are correct. Any person that could buy a house is a lead. But what about a qualified lead? Let's go there. What's a qualified lead?
Pre-approved.
Okay, pre-approval. We got some checklists here. What else?
Client referral.
A client referral. Somebody sent them to you. You know they're like engaging and looking now or something, right?
Wanting to buy and able to buy.
Wanting to buy, able to buy, right? So we have these sort of pre-qualifications to know how much time to put on them, correct? Okay, so I want you guys to write one thing down because we're going to do an exercise here in a minute. Values and niche clients. Niche is just a fancy word for specific. Because the thing is, if we're not specific, it's hard to find people. There's 8 billion people on the planet, right? So if we're not clear about the exact type of person that we're even wanting to work with, right? Or if we're not expressing sort of our values and our character and all of that kind of stuff, people won't know that they're supposed to work with us, number one. That's a branding thing. But 2, you won't know which groups of people to interact with. And then you get this paralysis by analysis. You start jumbling all over the place, and we never start to build traction. The reason I could go to an area and after 3 weeks be like kind of Facebook famous in this little town is because I would build these relationships with people, and I would only talk to parents with kids, 18 and younger, and they all knew each other because they went to the same schools. So we were able to build momentum. I could have knocked on every single door, right, and talked to everybody, but that actually would have slowed me down. Because technically anybody could buy, right? What I was selling educational resources. I had some stuff that grandparents would like though. But if I spent all the time with the grandparents and not the parents, I'd be less successful. Does that kind of make sense? I skipped probably 70% of houses because only 30% of houses have kids. And I did great. So we can actually skip a huge percentage of people and you'll still do really, really great. Does that make sense? Okay. So what you need is an ideal audience, an ideal process, an ideal person. Okay, I like to call this an avatar in marketing. You ever heard of an avatar before? Yes, we have one. Okay. Who has an avatar they could say real quick off the top of their head? Okay, everybody write down, I need an avatar. Write down, I need an avatar. You need an avatar. Okay? Here's why. I'll give you an example. I love giving examples from my business because I like to lead by example with my coaching clients. I don't like to just, hey, do this thing. It's like, no, I'm actually doing it. So my ideal client, somebody in high ticket sales, because I get it, straight commission people People who literally make their own way, right? It's their destiny. Oh, I love that type of person, right? You know, they were facing fear, we're doing all that stuff. I get it. I've never had a salary job. I connect with these people. I'm there. Like, yes, I get it, right? The stress level you can have, right? Recruiting, selling, whatever, right? And I love people in these specific industries centered, especially around real estate, insurance, real estate agents, right? Loan officers, etc. Does that kind of make sense? And the reason is because everybody in this industry needs help training because you get in, right? And it's pretty quick and easy to get your license, isn't it? Now, Cindy's great training. And I'm sure you guys get some amazing training, right? But your background may not be business, right? You know, and that's most realtors. Well, my background is business. I have an accounting, finance degree. I understand the numbers. I did 7 years of professional sales training, recruiting, yada, yada, right? Does that kind of make sense? So that could be my niche because I could solve a problem that I knew every realtor probably has. Every single one. They're busy. They'd like to get better. They're not exactly sure how to get better. And they probably need to leverage their time with systems, right? Because they're on their own and they don't have it all structurally built out from this big corporate entity, you know, all the time. Does that kind of make sense? Okay, sweet. So that's what you're doing, okay? That's what you're doing. So we're going to do a little exercise here, okay? And I want you to just think, who is my target audience? And the way you start thinking about who is you start thinking about why do I do what I do? So when everyone take 30 seconds, write down why do you do what you do. It will end up telling you who you're passionate about. Believe it or not. If you need some help, we'll work on it, okay? Everybody, 3, 2, 1, write it down, go. All right, who wants to share one? Who's got one? Let's go, Katie.
Sports families.
Sports families, is that why you do what you do, sports families?
Yep. So I
Okay.
can be there.
So you can be there, okay. So you do real estate so you can be with your kids, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Perfect, so you relate with that type of person.
Yes.
Yeah, lovely, okay, perfect. Who else?
I just put to help people and to be around people because I like to be around people. You know,
Perfect,
like
okay.
Socialize and, you know.
Yes, perfect, okay. Good start, great start there. If you can get a little bit more specific of like, who do you want to really impact next, right? So we want to help, how do you want to help? Does that make sense? How do you want to help? So that's the next question for everybody. How do you want to help? You know, if you have your why, here are the 4 other sections. This will be homework for you, okay, to really get deeper on this because we can't figure it out today. We only got an hour, guys. I'm sorry, okay? So your why is sort of this overarching, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And then you're going to have below that, you need to come up with what we call a mission. You need to come up with what we call a vision. And then you need to come up with 10 values. 5's okay. 10 values. 10 values of how you're going to treat people. Okay, mission, vision, values. Lastly, transformation. How are people going to transform from working with you? Cindy's, if you notice, actually have all of them. There's a vision for making more emerald use awesome, changing people's lives, building wealth. There's that mission, vision, pretty closely related there. The values of how she treats people, you guys probably get that. And the transformation is like you're going to have a better life in these XYZ categories that she mentioned. Does that kind of make sense? So if we can get those hard, they take you some time. Okay, so you know it took me a while. So don't feel like you should just figure it out. And if you're not figuring it out, don't feel bad about yourself. All right, so from that, okay, so that's homework. We're actually going to do this exercise on the who, which Jen was asking me about here. Who, now we go who, okay? So these are going to be some questions that I want you to answer, sheet of paper, whatever you're using, okay? And the real simple is like how old probably is your ideal audience member? You know, if they're a medical professional, they're not in their 20s, they're probably 30s, 40s, 50s, right? Income level, where are they probably at income-wise, you know? Because different income brackets engage in different activities, have different what we call watering holes, kind of like where to meet people. Does that kind of make sense? What do they believe? Okay, and it's okay to be super clear. You don't have to throw this out there all the time about some of the stuff, but you know, when I did this whole exercise, what they believe is, you know, they're probably Christians, right? They're probably Christians. You know, they probably, and again, whichever way you, it's totally fine. It's your business. Like, I'm not saying you have to do it this way. They're probably Christians. This is a little taboo. They're probably conservative. Hopefully, you know, they're probably conservative, right? They probably have some of those values. And I don't, you know, again, that's not on the website, but it's likely who's going to be attracted to my personality and how I work with people, you know. Another one could be like they don't want to fail in life. They want to make a difference. I like only working with people who care more about helping people than money. Does that kind of make sense? So it's totally subjective, whatever you want it to be. What do they believe? It's probably going to reflect what you believe. What do they not like, dislike, right? You know, what gets under their skin? What do they fear, desire? And in fact, if we're not doing social media today, but she's mentioned social media is something we should all get better at. You see these right here? Those are all videos. Does that make sense? Man, you dislike this? I talk about this. You're frustrated with that? I fix it for you. Does that make sense? You're afraid of this? I'll show you how to overcome it. That's how content works. Just giving people what they want. What makes them work hard? What kind of houses do they buy? Probably, right? Transformation, again, that you're offering. People, when they say, hey, you know, my values are this, you're going to get, some people will be like, eh. But you're going to get other people will be like, thank you. Yes. And it's okay to, you know, you probably don't, no, you probably don't, I mean, we all want to work with whoever. You can work with whoever, but the person who's maybe real snippy or whatever, don't agree with some of the values, they may not be your best long-term client.
And what's great is that it's their ideal client. You know, so hers is not maybe mine and mine's not yours, and it doesn't have to be, but it's the one that you
care.
Best with.
Yes.
Prefer.
Or who you want to impact, right? You know, I've got a client and she's so good. She's like an exec, double diamond exec, realty execs, realtor named Shelby, and you know, she just loves first-time home buyers. She loves changing their life. She's boom, you know, she just loves it. She's like, I'll do whatever. So she has a whole YouTube series on like basically set up for home buyers that we've built out for her to make it easier for those people to be more successful. You know, first-time home buyers, though, for some people are frustrated, you know, and maybe they're not at the income level or something, whatever, right? But it doesn't matter. Like whatever you want to be, if you want to help the medical professional, great. If you want to help the young business professional, great. The point is once we identify who we're going to help, it leads to everything else and makes it simple because we're thinking long-term solutions here, right? If we know, I'll kind of explain how you're going to utilize it.
You're talking about gearing your marketing toward these people, or your social media marketing, your marketing.
Everything.
But it's, you know, to me, it's like if an 85-year-old grandmother that I helped sell refers me to her granddaughter who's a first-time home buyer.
Yeah.
Those are equal in my mind.
Sure, yeah.
I love first-time home buyers, but I love helping old people.
Of course, yeah.
Right? And so I believe, I mean, for me, at least, I can have more than,
Absolutely.
I feel like I have more than one.
Yes, you will help. Yes, and how you approach, let's say if you like a first-time home buyer and you really work well with older folks, right? You can have kind of two blurbs. You know, you can kind of do this a couple different ways. Does that make sense? Because it's the same process. But you want it to be clean and clear and know what they're expecting because you're going to change your sales process or you're going to generate leads in two different places. Does that kind of make sense? Okay?
And I think it splits up the same way that you can have your preferred area that maybe whether you're marketing to or you know the most about, but it doesn't necessarily mean that
You
like,
don't go to Maynardville if there's something.
Yeah, you can sell whatever, right?
still sell others, but that is your ideal.
It's your ideal.
It's not that you don't do business with people who are not your ideal client. It's just by narrowing that focus, you're going to draw more of your ideal client.
Yes, and you may end up just being too busy to do the other people. That's sort of what I find actually myself.
Then you can refer them out and still make money.
Yes, you can, absolutely, which is probably one of the most efficient ways to do it. All right, so we're going to get into non-techie lead generation now. So how this all fits together. So we have this ideal audience, and now it's going to tell us where we can meet people in one of these four ways. And again, you're business guys, you can pick how you want to do this. But every one of you have to do number one, referrals better. Okay, so I'm going to give you some really good tips on how to actually get more referrals. I get about 5 referrals every time I ask. Different industries in some ways, right? But it's really how we ask. It's really how we're asking, for example. So I kind of explain that and how we can kind of sell ourselves, sell this vision, sell this transformation, for example, that we care. Because people just don't give them more referrals, not because they don't want to help, because they don't feel like it. So sales is a transfer of emotion. So we got to get people to feel like it, right? We don't like feel like giving money away sometimes, right? But if the cause is good, then we will, because we get emotional about it, right? Because we care. Okay, simple. Okay. Farming, okay, being the go-to person, I'll kind of give some examples that I have some people doing that you could also go for. Longer term, farm, right? You plant, takes a summer, right? So that's a long term, so quick, long term, okay? Speaking another long term, hence exactly what I'm doing here, right? You're going and finding your niche audience and going and adding free value, right? To meet lots of cool people who may end up being clients, who knows, right? Right? Sponsorships, right? Exactly what Samar's doing right now, where she gets to be in front of her people because she specializes in home insurance. That's what her people do, right? So realtors, that's who she wants to be. She doesn't worry about all the 25 life insurances they can sell. She's like, how can I help this one group of people and be the best at it? Because that's how you kind of beat out the competition. Does that make sense? Okay, so some specifics. Okay, so referrals, guys. So there's 3 common mistakes I see every time I work with someone with referrals. Non-techie leads here for Susan, right? Okay. So a lot of times people, they either get rejected when they ask for referrals. Oh, right. They just, hey, do you know anybody? No. I was like, oh, dang it, that's gosh, bummer, right? Ever have any? Maybe it just feels awkward to ask. I have a client where they feel like they're gonna rub the relationship the wrong way. It's probably because you're asking in a weird way. Okay, we'll fix that today. And then not asking every single time. I think some people just, because of these 2 reasons, maybe we've been rejected. We've never gotten a referral for a while, or it's been a little bit, and we're used to them texting us, right? But if we allow people, and our only way of getting referrals is if they text us, do you have any control? No, and having no control, how does that make us feel?
Not good.
Right? It freaks us out, right? And I think that's something that we can fix, okay? So here's your simple solution. So I want you to write those 4 things down, and I'll kind of explain each one, okay? So when you ask for referrals, okay, you got to have a transition. You got to have a transition. That one's not on here. There's a transition where you explain your mission, vision, and transformation succinctly. Okay, so maybe you're calling a past client, seeing how things are going, right? That's one option for an excuse to talk to someone. Or you're calling someone for Christmas. Hey, how's it going? Right, and you're catching up, you're kind of building rapport, and you're like, hey, I could talk to you for all day, Susan. I could talk to you all day. I have such a good time. Hey, I was wondering if I could ask your help. That's important. Ask your help. I was wondering if I could ask for your help super quick. You've always treated me really nice. I love working with people like you. And my mission is to help insert ideal audience, first-time homebuyers, right? Have an incredible experience and start building wealth for the first time. Who do you know that might appreciate at least hearing about me? Every one of my clients, you got to say this. This is so important. This is part of this assessment. Every one of my clients sends me to at least 5 friends. And if it's on the phone or a person, you're smiling. Who do you know? And then you just, and you let them think. There's going to be probably an awkward pause. Okay? Going to be a little awkward pause. I kid you not, I would do this door-to-door sales. They didn't know I was coming. They bought in 20 minutes, and they're sending me 10 or 15 other friends. And I would go knock on a door, and I know their name, the age of their kids, what they probably needed, and I had a picture with their friend who bought for me, right? That makes door-to-door selling seem different, doesn't it? Right, so there's referrals in real estate. Okay, they're gonna say, I don't recall. I can't think of anybody. Susan, I can't think of anybody right now, And so you say, hey, no worries. You're ready for this because you know it's coming. Okay, you're going to do this. You're going to transition to this thing called memory joggers. Hey, no worries. I know you're probably thinking about a million things. This is totally off topic and out of the blue. So I'll tell you what. Let me help you. This has helped a lot of people I've been talking with. So you transition, okay? So I'm just going to, if you put me on speaker, okay? Put me on speaker real quick. Okay, just hit your contacts. This will be super quick. Super quick. Hit your contacts. This is where people get nervous. This is where people get nervous. I promise.
You know what? Because I'm thinking I would be going, no. And because I would be going, oh no, you've pushed me too far. It's hard to get to that point because I know how I would react to somebody that does that. And that's where it would be like, oh great. And then all of a sudden you start telling me to pull up my contacts and I'd be going, oh no, you don't.
And then you wouldn't want to answer the phone.
And then you wouldn't want to answer, yes, exactly.
So it's okay. It's okay. So this is how we feel about it, right? Nervous, right? Oh man, it's not going to work. You gotta read a situation. I mean, if you're not close to this person, maybe you don't ask them, right? I mean, if they're gonna react the way Susan just did, Suzanne, excuse me. I apologize, Suzanne. Right? If they're gonna react that way, right? And maybe they're whatever. You're probably not built up, so you need to decide what a good level is. Usually when I'm asking, it's not somebody I don't know super well, it's somebody I have a relationship with. So don't ask people you don't have a relationship with.
Gotcha.
So like if I was calling Suzanne that I've known a while.
It's a client of
say,
yours,
hey,
past client, right? So let's identify that. Let's solve that really quick.
Moving my area.
Yeah, let's solve that.
If I asked.
Yeah. for you.
Yeah.
That's the point. That's the point, right?
That's what I'm saying. Like, it would have to be, I guess, somebody you built the
Really?
relationship with.
Yeah, so a past client, right? Like, I don't know, you have 20 past clients, 50 past clients, 100 past clients. You know, how often do you call? Do you call once a quarter and ask them for referrals? And the answer is probably not, maybe, I don't know. Maybe
And
some of you
there's
do.
some I definitely could do that with. So that helps, because the majority that would be like,
I should have said that at the
I'll
beginning.
never answer her damn call again.
Yes, guys, because if you don't have a relationship, like you don't ask for referrals from anybody you don't really have a relationship with, right? But if it's your sphere of influence, anybody who's a friend of yours, any past client, I promise you this will be fine. I've done it. I've literally called through. We had a season where we were doing COVID, you know, and we sold books virtually, you know. So I did the whole sphere of influence and called a bunch of friends, and this worked great because we have a relationship. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think you need to go into a random person that you just met in the buying process, selling process, whatever. Hey, do you know anybody? It's like, prove that you're good, trustworthy, build the trust, and then you'll get
I'll do
referrals.
it.
And Katie, you know, and I'll tell you what, again, you've got to have some gumption here. I think if you want to be, you know, top tier in sales, there's a fear aspect that you do have to overcome, and you're going to fail at some point and mess things up. So you can't be afraid to fail. And if you can learn how to get people to like you and trust you so quickly that they give you referrals faster, you should do it. Because I kid you not, I mean, I could knock on a door and be good at relating with someone, and they would tell me no, and they would still give me referrals. And they weren't mad about it. There was no negative Facebook post. And their friend bought. So I get the fear. I get the fear, but I'm telling you, when you get good at this, because you have to practice, it's really not that bad.
And if you don't ask anyone, you'll never get it.
You'll never get it.
So it's okay. Like you said, the whole I need to ask 10 to get 6 or whatever the numbers are.
Yes.
Then you know you haven't asked 10. Well, then ask whatever it is to get where you need to be.
So it's two things, right? So two things in order to make a sale in any capacity, whether it's a magazine, asking for referrals, a sale, or selling somebody's home. You need trust, number one, and you need a need, right? Usually they have a need because they're talking about real estate. Whether or not they trust you is a branding thing. It's how you present yourself, how you sell yourself, right? So if you're not selling yourself well, no one will give you referrals regardless. And you'll get that reaction. So sell yourself well, and you won't get a negative reaction. Does that make sense? Okay. So when you do the memory joggers, and they are on the speaker, or they're thinking, whatever, okay? It's usually not that big of a deal. Hey, put me on speaker, grab that thing. They usually chuckle because it's like clever, okay? By the way, if they like you. If they don't like you, then again, don't do this. Okay. And then you're going to do these memory joggers. And you have a list about 5 or 10 professions, things people do to jog their memory of like referrals they might know. What about what about your best friend at work? What about your best friend from soccer practice? I don't know, if it's parents or something, right? Does that make sense? And you go down the list, and when you say like your best, they think of one person instead of everyone. And we ask referrals at the beginning, they think of everyone. And that's why they don't give you any referrals, because they're overwhelmed. So you just help them pick. If you have like 10, you'll probably have like 5 that they'll, oh yeah, this person's actually thinking, you know, and you have your little jargon of like, that's looking for a house, that's looking to sell, that's moving here. Does that make sense? Okay, that's what memory joggers are. All right, so that's referrals. All right, second one is farming and speaking, okay, which is I'm a big recommendation of. So these ones are going to be pretty simple. They're long term. It does take some time to build things out like this, but you know, I've got a client. She's got this business that we would call like a watering hole. It's where her ideal client comes in. I'll use Axle Logistics as a perfect example of this. So, like one of my clients is first-time home buying, and imagine being a leader of a business and somebody coming in to talk to you, and be like, you know, hey, like, can I like for free teach your successful sales force how to build wealth? And you don't have to do anything, by the way.
Of course.
There you go. It's that easy, right? You find something you're good at that other people in your niche that would want to learn, and you go find a leader, right? And you go say, hey, can I speak? So I'm pointing at the wrong one. Does that kind of make sense? And same thing here. So I've got a client, and she's got a brand called Mom You're Not Alone. That's her YouTube channel, her podcast, stuff like that. And so there's this nonprofit that is called WPRP, okay, Widow Parent Relief Project. And so that helps widows. She talks about becoming a widow in her show and stuff. So it's a connection, right? So what they do is she's built a relationship with Kelly, who's the owner of that nonprofit, he's the founder. And they put Brandy in as the second interview for anybody who goes through that tragedy. And she just helps them with life stuff. There's nothing attached. And people will come in and they'll tell them about life, and she'll help them get organized with their budget, because there's sometimes the women maybe hadn't been running that before. That's at least what she claims happens, right? She'll solve the problems, and then they'll be like, oh, and I've got to sell this house. Boom.
What's it called again?
WPRP. Widow Parent Relief Project.
Brandy you're talking about, right?
Brandy Leiden, yeah. Brandy Leiden. So Brandy Leiden is...
She rents from Brandy. She's a realtor at KW.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
totally.
met her at the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brandy was my first client.
Oh.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. So yeah. Last October, I quit my job, and then I did a fitness company online. Started up, and then she ended up asking me to help her with a podcast, and that's how all this happened.
Yeah, she has a podcast.
Well, I love the podcast, and I'm a widow as well, so I
Oh, yeah.
feel like I can relate. So
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. All of the stuff. We do all of it for the production and stuff. So, okay, so that's like a farming, that's like a speaking method. Does that make sense? It's pretty simple. Just finding what you care about, finding those people. When you know it's medical, you can just go to a hospital. Hey, I'd love to help your RNs. I'd love to help your XYZ person, do this that that they need, right? Okay. All right, third one, sponsorships here. Fourth one, excuse me. Really simple. You're just finding people who have the same values in front of your ideal audience, and also where you can get contact information. I would not recommend, just throwing out signs, because you can't track anything and stuff like that. So, for like my sponsors, like at the little end, and you can answer however you want, but there's this little question that Samar has in there to sort of like sell herself a little bit, and you may put no, which is fine. But you also may put yes, and then it helps you kind of connect with that person and call and get coffee and do the whole thing that, that you guys obviously do with people as well. Does that kind of make sense? And sponsorships are great. You can leverage money and get in front instead of having to set up the speaking, right? The other three, it takes time. Sponsorships, leverage money with time, right? So more of a system type thing. Okay, any questions about that? All right, tech-based, all right? You guys ready for some tech-based stuff? Facebook. Okay, we're gonna go through Facebook. So there's a lot of ways.
I'm so bad. I'm terrible.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. You can get better, or you could leverage like a marketing team. Yeah. So there's a lot of platforms, guys. We're not gonna utilize all the time. Again, if we come back to social media, whatever, we can hit more in depth. But I'm just talking about Facebook and how to utilize it specifically to get leads, to build relationships. Again, it takes time. It's not you're not just going to start utilizing this and getting a bunch of leads right away. But over time, you will get leads if you're consistent with it. Okay. So real quick, we have to get through this. Okay. Every single time I do one of these presentations, we've got to hit some of the objections. Harvard says the objection first wins, right? So so you got to say the objection. So if you're feeling this, maybe you don't like social media. I don't know how to use social media, or maybe you don't care about social media. There's about 24 months ago where I was like, social media is the devil. It's terrible, like this is just awful thing, and it's screwing people up, and that's exactly what I thought. And then I had a friend who came and basically was starting to create content. He's like, well, do you know things? Have you said things to people that have helped them? I'm like, yeah. I was like, well, okay, do you want to help more people and impact them? Yeah. I was like, then how can you not create content for people to see for free so they can have better lives? It's like, dang it! Oh, you're right? And so I started to make some stuff, and and now 24 months later, it's going well, and we're getting 26,000 views on YouTube or whatever a month or something. So it's like it takes a while, but if your heart's in the right place, this becomes really easy. Everything's hard when we focus on ourselves, right? Okay. So to help you with some of these objections, we got the emotional side. Here's the logical side. 81% of consumers go online to find information, answer any question about the product or service before heading out to make a purchase, and they're making a purchase on you. They're deciding if they're working with you, because there's a million realtors, and you've got to be different, right? 93% of consumers read online reviews before making a purchase. 58% say that those reviews, they will pay more for better companies with better reviews, and they would travel further, right? Which is a big deal, since we're all in the luxury brand here, right? 92% of people would also always occasionally read online reviews to evaluate local business before they make buying decisions. 90% says positive reviews makes a difference. So here's 5 steps to generate leads on Facebook. It's really pretty simple. People just overcomplicate this, which is okay, because we're like, man, what is Facebook and how do I use all these buttons or whatever? It take you an hour to kind of learn where to click, and you'll be real slow. Right? But over time, our brains get normalized with things, and it becomes easier, okay? Everything gets easier. So, number one, you add a new friend who's your ideal person. Let's say it's Fireman. You can go on Facebook, Fireman, Knoxville.
I'm sorry.
And you start adding people, And you could, for example, make some content that firemen love.
What do firemen love?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Maybe you're chopping the wood with an axe.
Same. That's what I want to know. The whole fireman in my house.
Anything you want, right? And then, content that's specific for the niche. And then we want to engage with these people so they add us back. They were saying hello, right?
I've never thought about searching for them though.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah, it's that easy. It's in the bio. People usually put their profession.
Yeah.
It's easy. It's really easy. Okay, and then you're going to give them something that solves some of their problems that relates to what you're doing. Right? Does that make sense? First-time home buyer, first-time home buying guide. Somebody, I think you said nervous about buying. Here's all the reasons, here's how to be prepared, whatever, And then, essentially, as you build the relationship, which maybe takes a bunch of messages, maybe it's really quick depending on the person. It's very situational. You're not going to message all the same stuff, okay? You're going to be personalized with it. And then you just ask for a meeting. And at that meeting, that's where the magic happens, right? Okay, we're going to reverse engineer. This is how we help create coaching programs, products, all the stuff that I've created. This presentation was reverse engineered based on what I thought people would need, okay, based on what Cindy told me. So what happens when someone adds you back on Facebook, right? Or you add them, what do? You go look at their profile. Their profile is a little sus, you cancel. So we got to have a decent profile,
Yeah. Okay.
right? And then they see that you've posted content. They might scroll down and see is this a legit person?
And I do check that every time.
Every time.
Because I'm sorry, every doctor who is 60 wants to meet me.
Yeah.
And they probably don't even live in the United States.
That's
Nailed
why
it.
you should be searching firemen.
That's right.
That's right, firemen.
They can go to shows every other.
You can niche that way. It's whatever, whatever you want to
They're not
niche.
even real people. It's just
Yeah.
stuff.
No, yeah, exactly.
But I go and look. Did they make post? Does it say about the person? Can I really see stuff?
Yes.
And you would be amazed how they are friends with 15 other women realtors
Yes.
who have accepted their friend request.
They weren't looking.
Probably one of them.
Might be. If I see you, I'll tell you.
Um,
That's just the.
Is this a business page or a personal page?
You can do whichever, especially unless you've got 10,000 followers. And you're going to go really hard in building your audience. Right now, it doesn't matter. The difference is personal is usually what we have built, and the professional is the more scalable thing. But you don't have it built, so we're spending lots of time building something that's not generating us revenue yet, right? And so the idea is, depending on where your business is at, right? There's two things that sort of get your business to grow up, right?
So if you just have about 300, that's not really built. You wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't think so. I wouldn't consider that. You could just invite all of your friends, I would assume, if you had a bunch. So going into the back end stuff, again, we could have probably a separate conversation about how to use that. So little time, right? I don't want to keep you guys here forever. So basically, to answer your question real simple, I would do whatever you have now. If you want to start building the other and share posts across, simplest way to do it right now, until you're at a revenue point where you have a budget to hire either an internal marketing team or external team. We have marketing assistants that can help you do all this stuff, so you can just focus on sales, for example. So until you're to that point revenue-wise, just simple, easy. Just sell a lot. Money solves a lot of problems in business. So just make a lot of money. And then you can get all the stuff you're not good at. I would not spend all of your time worrying about being perfect. Okay, done is better than perfect. Everybody should write that down. Done's better than perfect. Done is better than perfect. Okay, so what happens? So number 3, they engage with your content if it is relevant to them. If it's not relevant, they're like, right? So that's why you're adding the correct type of profiles, okay? Number 5, if they like your conversation, right? And you start messaging them, for example, when they engage, you engage. I skipped that one. So if they like something, that means they've looked at your profile, they know who you are, they probably accept your friend request, and you'd be like, hey, thanks for liking my comment, or liking my post. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the whole point of posting is to see who likes it, and start talking to those people.
Yeah, but then I don't write them back for 2 days, and then they're like, oh.
That's why you gotta have this view to your face.
I tried
Or
to.
just check in.
I'm just
So if you just
social
do,
media person.
if you do 15 minutes, if it's the hardest thing, do it in the morning. If it's easy for you, do it at the end of the day. 15 minutes a day, that's it. Just put a little block. Again, another conversation, time blocking is a thing. If you've never learned it, you're happy to have conversations to talk about. But you want to time block your schedule. You should really know what you're doing a week in advance of
My
everything.
calendar is set, but I guess I
Perfect.
should put that on.
You might want to add a little bit if you're going to do this. Obviously. Okay, so then obviously you're engaging, you're saying hello, and then if they have a good conversation with you, they'll book a meeting. I like to have a QR code. I like to have a really professional photo. I like to have sort of what I do, how I help people, and I'm driving people to go to more content, for example. Obviously the more followers you get, that does show that you are not a person. So the goal is to drive people to maybe click something without you having to tell them to. So if there's something really awesome, like free Facebook lead generation guide or something that your people might like, then they might actually scan that and download it. You get their phone number, email, and be like, hey, I saw you got the lead generation guide. That's awesome. That's called a lead magnet. Something you can also message in DMs and stuff like that. So it just needs to look professional. You need to have like a bio down there and all that kind of fun stuff. So that's the profile. So after that, whenever you are posting, just really avoid the advertisement mistake where you just have a weird voice and you're just like blah 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 and real estate. If you need a realtor, call me. It's like,
That's what I'm terrified of.
we scroll past that, right? It's inauthentic, it's uninspiring. So when you're creating content, the idea is that we just want authentic content. It doesn't have to be everything professional, You can make it look however you want. You can have whatever brand you want. If you want to come off as professional, that's fine, but it doesn't have to be that way. You could also, if you're trying to appeal to the 25-year-old, as Jen mentioned, well, there you go. If you want to appeal to whatever, right? So those people probably engage on social media in different ways, right? Than a different generation, for example. It's up to you. So, but your goal, is you're adding people. You'll probably start maybe 10 conversations a day. If you're commenting on new posts, people will see stuff. Whenever I need some clients, I literally will just Google like Knoxville podcast, Knoxville YouTube, Knoxville blank, real whatever, and I'll just go look for people posting. And I kid you not, I'll just go comment. And some of you might do this in some Facebook groups of people moving to Knoxville, whatever. But you just go comment on, answer some questions, and I don't know if anyone knows Vernon Corum, but he has a podcast that he's starting up, and I was like, hey, you should come do it at my studio for free, and it turns into a client, right? Does that kind of make sense? You're just commenting, being a human being. My recommendations, maybe one story, one video a day, something simple like that. If you need to do pictures to start, it's fine. And the 3 types of posts that you should do is basically a business or hybrid ad. So business hybrid ad is like, hey, if you're struggling, you're considering buying right now, just to let you know that the blank interest rate is blank, but here's 3 ways to get around that. So if you want a conversation on how to do that, just call me. Something like that, instead of just saying, hey, if you need a realtor, does that make sense? Hey, let me solve this problem for you. And because when we solve problems for people or we give them free stuff, don't they like us? They like us a lot, right? And then that's the trust. We're starting building the trust. They have the need already, probably build the trust. The lifestyle is just what's happening in life. That's when we all usually are pretty decent at this. If we're going to some conference, if we're on vacation, if you're at a ball game with your kids, I don't know, just life stuff. Whatever's happening in life. I did a Spartan race, so I posted about a Spartan race. And then again, add value content is just whatever your niche is, go in and creating content that's like, here, let me solve these dislikes problems from the ideal audience worksheet. Make sense? And then that helps people a lot. So again, we're not going to go too much into the actual posting mechanics or anything like that. We only have a certain amount of time. So then what happens is we start conversating, right? So we post, people engage, and then we engage. So the 2 things, which is everyone should know this, but I'm just hitting them really fast. So we all know, be helpful. Always ask, hey, how can I help you? You do use emojis. And yeah, be authentic, use emojis. I actually get more responses. I think I did this to Cindy one time, where I sent like a meme. She was busy and forgot to text me back or something, and I send her some meme of like, Happy Monday, with some like cat.
Yeah, I know.
And instead of feeling bad or avoiding it, they open and chuckle, right? And then they text you back. So, you can do the same, like, don't take yourself so seriously. There's a lot of different, personality styles, and one of them, which a lot of salespeople are, is this thing called a fighter, where we work. We almost obsessively do it sometimes, and then we are really serious all the time. And the way to get out of that is just have more fun. And some of us have too much fun, and we need to work a little more. So there you go. So okay, so avoid this, right? Cindy hit this really well already. Don't be this guy.
Hello,
Please sit, buddy.
Message has been deleted. Please, sir, say something. That guy, God, message me forever. Okay, so this is basically the last step that I think a lot of people struggle with or forget about. Y'all, like you should be meeting with people if you want them to be your clients. You should. If you can get them in person or on Zoom, they'll probably fall in love with what you're going for, right? Like we all are so good at the in-person stuff. That's the whole goal of this. It's not to have a 2-year messaging conversation with somebody. Our goal is to convert, right, a lead into our pipeline, whether it's 6 months down the road and they're thinking about it, or it's like, oh, you just realized that they need you in 30 days, right? We just want to convert to a meeting. So drive them somewhere. I was doing a networking club, and this is where my ask was at that time, was driving people to this little networking club that I was doing to see if they would come. That was sort of my lead magnet per se, but there's of course many other lead magnets. He came to the meeting, it was fun, and or he came to my office, I think in this specific case, and he just adds so much value that they're like, thanks for coming. He didn't sign up. He didn't sign up for coaching. That's okay, right? But always add value every single time, right? He might later, you know? This was way more valuable than training I'm missing. Yes, it makes me feel good, right? Okay, so the last little techie piece, okay, is building maybe a good lead magnet. Again, it could be something like an event. It could be something like that where you're just driving traffic somewhere like that. The other thing is like giving a guide, and I think you need to do these 4 things if you're going to do it. So it needs to solve a problem for your ideal person. It needs to be simple to understand, exciting and free, and then it needs to capture information. If it doesn't get the phone number, email, or whatever information that you want, you know, I guess it's cool, you know, not that great, okay? Let's get a picture there. Okay, so for example, what you guys are gonna get is this how to generate leads on Facebook guide, right? That'd be great, you know, we all need leads, and then Facebook's an anomaly to us, and I'd like to know how to kind of have a good conversation, you know, and then making it accessible. So on that QR code, it takes them there, and they can just click that really fast. So for you guys, it's real simple. It's having some guides. We all probably have guides. I'm pretty sure Chime has these guides. You probably want to personalize them, make them different. Guides to,
There's a lot of those guys.
you got some guides, you know? And, you know, man, it's so funny sometimes. Like I remember as a sales manager, we had all these resources, but they were buried and we never used them. So sometimes just getting organized with like, what resources do I have? What am I explaining over and over and over again? Right? So every time someone comes into coaching, you know, if they haven't looked at my website, if they haven't checked out my videos, if they haven't done X, Y, Z, they probably are thinking, who is this guy? Well, that takes 30 minutes to explain, doesn't it? Build some rapport, you know, get someone to trust you, right? Because there's no reason not to. And then, so what I do is I got all my resources together and I send an email. Hey, read this before and fill out this little form for me. And then they go and they check all my stuff out and they come in like, dude, you're awesome. And then my sales meetings go from an hour and a half to an hour, which means I can have 30% more sales meetings, which by definition, by changing a form and an email, I can sell 30% more, right? Does that kind of make sense? So you have these, if you're explaining best practices on buying guides, you know, just tell your people, read this before you come. Hey, how'd you like the guide? And they'll either tell you I read it, it was great, or they'll say I won't, and you'll do your normal thing anyway. But if they read it, then you can kind of shorten your presentation. They're going to really appreciate you, etc. I like stuff like this. If you have like Maynardville that you mentioned, or whatever, you know, you have a city that you want to hit, I don't care, bury it, you know, have a little guide for that, school guide, whatever. I know there's some legal stuff, so you guys, you know, adhere to whatever the legal codes are. So any questions about that? Get them organized, find a link. It's pretty simple. Set it up so you get there. So again, this is pretty much our last thing. We're finishing up here. When you're doing leads in general, whether it's the referrals and your sponsorships, or you're doing speaking or farming, or you're doing Facebook lead generation with messaging and lead magnets, etc. Generating leads does take time. It takes a while to build relationships, get good at it. So don't expect results right away. If you do it long enough, you will get results. Social media is a tool just like a buying guide, right? So it's something we want to get better at. And in general, online presence probably all needs to get better. But if you know your vision, your values, right, your purpose and your transformation, why you want to help people, people will start saying yes to you over people who are the best. The way we're going to talk about leads is from a completely different angle than most people would. I think most people, when they come talk about leads, they're like, here's all the practical ways to get leads. And that's true. I think you guys probably have a manual on that. But then people try to apply it and they struggle and they get stuck. and for whatever reason it feels like pulling teeth. Woody made a cold call the other day, and that didn't make him feel good.
That's true.
You know, and that's just how it feels sometimes when we're starting something new. Woody's been with me for about 2 months, so he's doing all these new things. He can cold call like a champion. But the point is that we want to make every cold call into a warm call. Charles and I were talking about this yesterday, right? Like how do you pick the right leads to call on? How do you pick the right leads to generate that are controllable? Because I believe that regardless of market, regardless of anything that's happening, you know, in whatever industry, you can generate leads if you're smart about how you're doing it. The market should not dictate your sales per se, right? Maybe it dictates your price, but it shouldn't just dictate your transactions, for example. Does that make sense? Well, we all there? It's like a top 1% mentality here. So we'll talk about how to do that, and then we're going to talk about some actual exercises to get your juices flowing, and then actually some application. So the question we always ask ourselves is how do we sell in any market? And the average realtor pitch is this usually. And I don't know if this is your pitch, but if it is your pitch, it's not a great pitch because everybody says the same pitch. And if you do that, that's lead generation is going to be hard and feeling desperate. There's this weird psychology that happens when you ask everyone. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, hey, everybody, I do this, and you just start asking every single person, and there's no super differentiating factor of why it's valuable for them. And this is why people actually struggle with lead generation. It's not that they're not willing often to do the work, although some people don't want to do the work, but it's often just how you're branding yourself or you're communicating the value to the specific type of people that you're talking to. And people often don't know where to look. That's the actual problem. They don't know where to look, and they don't do the work. Kind of agree on that? Make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. So how do we differentiate ourselves? And I think this is something people struggle with, and you may not come up with the answers today. But the goal is that if you can start on these things, Charles we've been working with for a while, we've been building this out for his team. His team's ethos is a great name for his team. He's got his values. Whether it's selling or recruiting or anything to do with business, everything in your marketing plan, your ops plan, it all comes back down to what your mission, vision, values are. I'll give you an example. An investment space. All of you will probably like this example, completely relate. You may have some investment properties. If your mission were to, maybe you just really want the world to have better marriages. Maybe that's just something you're excited and passionate about doing, right? And the way that you wanted to fulfill that mission is to create this really awesome romantic getaway for couples or something, right? This is something my wife and I want to do. Maybe we'll do it in the Smokies, right? And you have this romantic getaway. So if that's your mission, then the marketing and the vision is this thing that fulfills the mission, that helps people get away. Maybe it's a discount, whatever. But it tells you exactly how to design the whole house. They come in, there's the heart pillows, there's the chocolate, whatever the romantic experience is. You go detail-oriented and get it all together because of that mission. Right? And you market that throughout the marketing language on your Airbnb post. Does this make sense?
Honey, I've been married 42 years. I don't remember heart pillows and stuff like that.
Sure thing. And maybe, and that's totally fine. But the goal would be that we would do it so people would have that experience, right? I totally understand. And then what you do for lead generation in that case is you go find people with the same mission, vision, and values. And who are some of those people? Some of those people, for example, could be marriage counselors. Right? Church leaders. I don't know. Marriage groups. And what you do is you actually go network with all of those people and you say, listen, if anyone's ever having trouble, or maybe if anyone needs to get away, here's a special link. It's 10% off. Send it to my place. And if you just do that for 3-6 months, you'll have unlimited leads for that business asset, and you're fulfilling a mission, and you feel motivated and excited. And it's that simple. I think people overcomplicate. They get into something for money. They get into something for whatever, right? They don't know why they're doing things a lot of times, right? And if you want to have a sustainable, long-term, successful business, you have to have a mission, vision, values, because unfortunately in the real estate market, it's like 80% turnover, people quit, right? And so when we work with people, we want to build 86%. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
April, I'm glad you're here. That's a great stat. We need to write that down and use that better. And the next one, right? So, and that's what and if you have this, if there's a reason behind what you're doing, you'll be more motivated to make the calls that we'll talk about later. You'll be more motivated to think about building a team or whatever it is, because you're trying to really pay it forward. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. This is the key, really, to success at the end of the day, is internal motivation. Because you can externally motivate people so long with incentives, but at some point, it's like money. You have enough of it at some point, All right, so what is your mission, vision, value? So we're going to ask you guys this question. So you guys got some paper right there, or phone, something to write on. What's your mission, vision, values? A mission where you've arrived is a mission that dies. Does that make sense? And a mission where you arrive is a mission that people jump off the ship. eventually. And that could be your clients or it could be people you recruit. Right? So it needs to be unattainable, but idealistic. Does that make sense? For example, at Knowledge Gap, our mission is to inspire people to do what inspires them by bridging their knowledge gaps, helping them build confidence, and what was
Thinking big, baby.
Thinking big, thank you
Gotta
very
think
much.
big.
So that they can add value to people around them and make the world a better place. Right? And the reason it's that is because that's what motivates us. That's what gets us out of bed. That's what attracts the right employee. It attracts the right types of client for us. Right? Does that make sense? Our transformation is within. Like we're bridging your knowledge gaps, making you think bigger, right? Helping build confidence. That's essentially how you should feel at the end of every one of our conversations. Is that's the end all be all goal. But we can never achieve inspiring everybody. So that means our mission's never done, and that means we always need to pop out of bed, go make it happen. Does that make sense? And people who are interested in inspiration, they're probably people who want to work with us. Cigarette company owners. Probably not, because they're killing people. You see what I'm saying? Like, so it helps you start to figure out what types of people you might approach. Is this starting to make sense? Our vision is along the lines of we believe in a world where everyone wakes up every day knowing that what they do matters and inspired to do what they do to leave a legacy of impact, something around those lines. It's endearing to people. Those things are exciting to people. And if you're recruiting or if you're selling, right? If your mission is to make Knoxville better or something, right? Because economic development, I'm just going off of that as an example. And again, wordsmith this, please, right, this is an example. You're finding people who want to make Knoxville better. And they'll work with you because you know who else, people aren't saying that. They're just saying I'm the best. You can be the best and focus on a certain type of mission that's passionate for you and exciting for the clients that you'd work with. And you might even recruit a bunch of people, if you're recruiting, for example, that would be along those lines as well. Does that kind of make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes?
For me, we had this conversation yesterday. I didn't come from sales so the whole mission, vision, values was like a hokey sales thing.
Hokey, I love it.
But other people enjoy or know, they get value out of knowing what, if it's written down and you can hammer it off like Joe just did with his.
With a mistake.
People find value, and I guess where we're at, and the value I see in is it doesn't do anything for me and my personality type, but I'm trying to sell and help other people that do have that. Same way some people are visual learners, some people are person-to-person learners, or whatever. So it was difficult for me to put that on paper because personally, but if other people can get value out of it, that's kind of where.
I value is seeing people in a home, getting to closing,
Yeah.
and putting them in their house. It makes you feel good, even though have been trying and trying and trying.
Mm-hmm. And I think one of the really interesting things about Charles, why are you willing to do the hard thing that you don't normally do, that you don't like to do? What's causing that?
Because I plateaued the way I was doing it.
Yes.
I niched into what I was comfortable doing, and I hit my level in 2022.
Yeah.
I'm back at that level this year, and if I want to grow, I need to expand some of the things that I'm doing.
Time management's the thing for me.
Yeah. Go down to that mission, though. You're willing to change and make the difference because you want to help people. So your personal mission has to do with helping,
my
right?
Mission, vision, values, when I gave it to them yesterday, and this is verbatim. I had ChatGPT help me with this stuff too, so I'll be honest about it. But my mission is to have investors and regular purchasers and sellers. We want to make sure that they have changing the industry in a way that there's clarity and kind of an ethical base towards achieving what their goals are in a way that's going to make them money and get their what they want the most. So kind of changing the expectation in the industry of you can be an investor, or you can be a home purchaser and do these things in a way that's ethically and morally based and also beneficial to you and your business. The vision is to create that network of people and connect everybody and use that as leverage to beat other competition. And then help people meet that mission, and then the values are ethical, integrity, all that good stuff. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how.
Yeah, I think one of those points too is just like he wants to help you. I mean, he's got Sono and all this stuff, and part of our coaching is be like, hey, like you should probably like monetize that a little better. But he's just such a helper, right? It's just like that's in his genes, and so he'll push through mission. If you think of the mission, he'll push through and do the stuff you don't want to do because you care about people, right? And that's the antithesis of helping people through the hard stuff, because real estate's hard, right? It's difficult. Obviously, that's why 86% of people quit. And I think just the vision of how we're trying to see a better future, your clients like that. I'll give you an example in our client. We work with this client called 10X Engineered Materials. They sell abrasives to like shipyards and the Navy and all these big companies. And performance, what most people compete on is performance. Like I'm a better realtor than them. I can go faster, etc., which is totally fine. You probably can compete on performance, and that's usually why people buy one or the other. But at the end of it, it's because they like and they trust you. And the fastest way to build likability and trust is actually through a very clear values or mission statement. Does that make sense? Because one of the things that their product does is it's biosoluble in the lungs, meaning that people who spray this, spraying these like hard metals against hard metals, right, and they inhale it, it leads to cancer. They develop something that doesn't lead to cancer. And so really the way they win is just saying, listen, our mission is to save lives. Isn't that powerful? Who cares about performance? Even if it's more expensive than performance, worse. You're not killing people. And there are a certain percentage of people who are just going to buy that because of that, for example. And certain people who are going to want to work with you or buy you and your real estate services because you have a mission that aligns with theirs. Right? In a sea of saturation, that's what differentiates you, is the clarity of the trust you're building with people. Does that make sense? And the fastest way is one sentence. Usually we have to meet, sell, and then they finally get to know us enough and then they buy, right? But with the mission, you can do it faster. Make sense?
Yeah.
You can identify your types of people you might want to work with. Okay, cool. All right, so next step, once you have your mission, it's really clear. Okay, it's powerful, it's moving, it's emotional. Because that's why people make decisions, guys. Like everybody knows home buying, home selling, right? Woo! It's an emotional process, am I right? Very emotional, okay? So people make emotional decisions in emotional processes, and every decision is emotional when you really think about it. We like to think it's logical, but it really makes us feel good or it makes us feel bad, okay? So it's all, selling is a transference of feeling. So who are the people who are going to buy into your mission, who are going to be moved by it, right? So I don't know who that is for you guys. This would be an exercise I think we've got on here to identify them through an ideal audience mapping exercise, okay? Has anyone ever done an ideal audience mapping exercise?
We did that over at Keller. I remember that, yeah.
Okay, if you have not, here, let's just go through it together, okay? So just write down these 4 words, phone, wherever you want to do it, beliefs, interests, career, and location, right? These are the simplest ways. You can go even deeper than that depending on how in-depth you'd like to go, but these are 4 main ones. What are the beliefs of the people who agree with your mission? You could think of their spiritual beliefs. You could think of their political beliefs. You could just think of like what their, are they ethical? Like what are they looking for, right? Interests, things that they would probably watch on TV or, be interested, activities, whatever. I don't know what it is for your mission. Inspiring people usually like location, conferences, for example. That's why we have a conference, because it attracts the right person, right? What kind of careers are they in? I think most people would know this, but if you go on Facebook or LinkedIn, you type in a career type in a location, like Knoxville, if you're trying to get Knoxville people to work with you, right? You'll have a whole list of people that might appreciate your mission. And because you have that mission, your approach to the non-random person becomes easier and simpler, and you have unlimited leads as you develop a better approach using an emotional, right, appeal, and you'll actually work with people you love working with. Does that make sense? So who are those people to you? What careers are they in, right?
And I can actually attest to that because, like, I've got 2 newbie agents that are absolutely killing it. But when they first came to me, they knew nothing. But they're kind of like me. They're investor agents. So I gave them a list of places to go, meetups, things like that, and then basically just scripts that I've used with investors. And just after practicing that for a couple of months, they're absolutely killing it. Yeah.
Off the races, right?
Yeah.
So I worked with Suzanne Eaton. She was a Realty One agent. And she really, the draw of being the best social media presence in the world was sort of her, like, oh, we got to win social media. But she was in her mid-50s, and she planned on retiring within about 5 years. And social media plays and things like that are really a long-term thing. If you're young, it's a great thing to do, right? It's to win on social media because you're going to have a compounding effect over time. But if you only got 5 years and you're retiring, you might not be seeing that many benefits. I said, what do you like to do? What are your skills? Who are you passionate about? And she wanted to help like old folks, downsize. And so I was like, here's what you need to do. You need to go do workshops. There's so many older retirees who have all these meetups. There's a location where all these people are, right? There's these people who have a sort of mission of probably retaining wealth for their children and inheritance, whatever, right? And we did that, and we built out some workshops, and that's all she does now. She workshops, she's got unlimited leads, and she's working on all these, and that's how she does it. And that's what's tough for most people is like figuring out exactly who you're going to work with in that location. And if you have this with your mission, it all aligns, you will be the person selling to those people that will win. You'll be the person that people are really excited to talk to. They'll appreciate your values. They'll appreciate your mission. Hi, how's it going? Thanks for being doing good. Okay, question, yes? Or statement.
Yeah, so kind of like an investor, I'm not all of us work with investors, but they have a buy box.
Yeah.
That's how I view this. It's like I have a buy box if I'm looking at an investment program. I'm only going to buy a single family that's going to make me this on my return, et cetera, et cetera. For clients, I try to think of it the same way. I'm only gonna, this is my buy box, this is the people that I wanna work with. And not to get too into that, because that's a whole other conversation, but NAR stuff coming down the pipeline, this part is important because identifying the people who want to work with us that are gonna compensate us is important. So that is on that list as well to me.
Yeah, like one of their beliefs that you're saying here is just people, again, when you're like ethical commerce or however you want to say that, like people are just like, oh, like I want you to get paid. That's the people you want to work with, right?
Right.
Right, and there's a certain demographic, and there's probably certain careers that those people are in, and certain things like that. And then the people who are like real stingy and like fighting you on your commissions. Why even approach that guy or girl, right? Like let's avoid that altogether with our mission. When our mission at Knowledge Gap is to inspire people to do what inspires them, right? It gets away people who are all profit, because it's not, what was the percentage on the growth for him, 131%? We get the profit, but we do it in a way that's like inspiring people. Does that make sense? It's one of our goals, but it's not the mission. If that's the mission, then you'll cut corners and do whatever it takes to make money, right? Make sense?
Right.
Okay, cool. All right, so leads and applications. There's a bunch of ways you can generate leads. You all generate leads in some way. I don't need to tell you the way that you generate leads. I don't know how many leads that you have, but if you have inconsistent leads, okay, let's just run through the whole thing again. If you have inconsistent leads, your mission and vision values need to be clarified, so you can clarify your ideal audience, and then you can go approach these people. Based on your ideal audience that aligns with your mission, you then determine the sales channel, okay, that you're going to go after to go win in, okay? And I encourage you to pick one of these and win at that first or exhaust it before moving to something else. A mistake people make is they'll jump around and they'll never get traction and they never build habits, so everything feels hard. When you don't have a habit, it just feels hard, right? When you have a habit, something that's hard for others feels easy to you. Does that make sense? So pick one at a time. Okay, so paid, right? So everybody knows there's a billion ways to pay for leads. You can do Zillow and BiggerPockets and Dave Ramsey. There's so many leads that you can buy. And if your mission, right, is to help whatever those types of leads are, first-time homeowners, whatever you pay for based on the zip codes, right, investors in the Smokies, right, that's one, then you might go that route because of your mission is going to appeal to the type of leads you're going to get. I think people get struggle or get annoyed with Zillow leads because their mission's not aligned with the people that are calling Zillow. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if your mission's not going to align, you're going to get frustrated. Don't waste the money. Don't waste your time. Organic, right? So this is like something Charles does really well is this organic or farming down there is where you have this networking group, right? And you're going and you're farming through networking groups and you're going to go meet all these people. And for me personally, it's a slow burn. I don't know if I would do that, but it works, obviously, right? There's no right or wrong way. It's just the way that fits with your mission. Does that make sense? And that's what Charles does, right? So networking groups, long-term relationship building in the community. Sphere of influence. This is something everyone should do, especially when they start. It's something Kim does right now, all the time. Sphere of influence or referrals, right? So just actually learning how to talk to your friends about what you do that doesn't sound super salesy? How do you get referrals from those people in a good way? How do you ask? What's your follow-up process? What's your 12-month calendar for all of these things? Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
So I think you guys probably train really well on there, referrals as well. And what do you guys do? You might build wealth through real estate. Would you agree? Right? If it were me and I were you, and you like young people or entrepreneurial type or sales type or whatever, go find the companies where they work and go talk to the owner and say, hey, April, like, I know you've got a bunch of people, nurses, whatever, that are probably doing well and might want to learn how to build wealth through real estate. I would love to come in like once a quarter, just do like a presentation, just to like help them be successful.
That is a good point, because my most successful year in real estate, I had just a touch under 400,000 that year,
Mhm.
and I got it because I went door knocking on HR.
Mm-hmm.
I went door knocking on HR and of those
Yep.
type of companies.
Yep.
And then I did little workshops, and I just absolutely killed it.
Yep. Because all those people have a need, right, that aligns with your mission, which is your solution, right, which is why you're doing it, and so on and so forth. You would pick the companies based on your mission. The process is the same, where you do a little workshop and you build these relationships organically. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
A lot of things you can do. If you know your mission, your vision, your values, right, and you know your ideal audience, you'll go find them, you'll go make it happen, okay? So that's what I want to leave you with. The last piece here is then how you're selling yourself in 30 seconds. You may have all of this down, and you may be selling yourself poorly, okay? So you need to come up with your, like everyone says, a 30-second elevator pitch, but you got to know what actually hits with people. And guess what? The ideal audiences are all going to be different based on what they want to hear. So a nurse wants to hear something different than a business guy, right? Charles, what's a business investor want to hear?
They want to know that you know your shit, and then they're. Oh, sorry.
Whoa, hey!
Whoa.
Whoa, you two.
This is being live
Oh
streamed.
my God! Wow, we don't work with that guy. I don't.
Confident. I think for an investor, they don't want you to BS them. They either want you to know what you know and help them in the areas that you can, and then tell them what you don't know. So shoot them straight. If it's a different type of person, like it's a new home buyer, they want you to show confidence as well and hold their hand more through the process. So it just depends, like you said, who you talk
Yeah,
to.
possibly more empathetic on the other one, right?
Yeah.
The investor might care more about the numbers. Like, did you do the research? Are you showing those types of things? The nurse might want more of a feel-good approach. And this is, of course, just generalities. I'm sure there's nurses who are like, give me the numbers, right? But
Yeah.
you get the idea. So you need to tailor your approach to the types of people, your ideal audience. They want certain things. Help make sure they understand that you can give them those certain things. When I'm 30-second pitching myself, I usually mention that little door-to-door sales thing that 55% of people let me in, and a lot of people go, woo, because they know how hard it is, because usually entrepreneurs have done something like it and got crazy rejected, and they're like, immediately can have a relatable story to that. Does that make sense? And then I mentioned some big numbers of things that I've managed, because that just immediately proves, yeah, I know what I'm talking about. Like, I don't need to come up here and explain to everybody. I bring a book. It's like, oh, he's an author, right? Like, you don't need to you just need to have those little key points that help sell you in those 30 seconds. And then if it's ideal, like it aligns with the mission of the person you're talking about, their goals, right? The ideal audience, you already know what they want. They're going to be excited to work with you much more often than the general, I can do anything, right? Because that doesn't help them. Make sense? All right, cool. All right, last thing. The real problem. The real problem is their schedule and time blocking and time management, right? So this is all great, all of this theory is great, and you may come up with the best stuff, but if you never go approach anybody, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Okay, and so one of the things that we find is an epidemic across the real estate industry is that nobody time blocks. We usually have an unclear process or strategy and are jumping around. Okay, that's why I'm saying picking one thing, and you have very little differentiation, and the reason is, again, because of these things that we've talked about today. So if you're taking notes and you pick something from today that you're actually going to apply, okay, keep it simple. Do one thing for a month or a quarter, right? Go all in on some strategy, and don't change, and put time blocks being blocks of an activity that only one thing you're doing throughout your schedule on a Sunday before every week. When are you going to lead gen? When are you going to follow up with those leads? When are you going to show houses and so on, or lists or whatever? Does that make sense? And if you'll do that and you actually do a few hours of lead gen, it's incredible. I got Charles to do what? couple hours, that couple weeks, right? And then you were too busy. Right? That's the real issue for most people. It's just like, guys, go call people for 2 hours. Go knock on the HR doors for 2 hours a week.
A lot of agents are scared to do that though because they're afraid if I don't answer my phone. I'm even guilty of that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, if I don't answer my phone, I can't walk anytime. I can't walk anytime. But I agree with what you're saying. It does work. I'm not the one for implementing it.
It's like this. In a book I read once, The One Thing by Gary Keller. You read that book?
Yeah.
He talks about everything takes 45 minutes, even if they say it takes 5. Because it takes 15 minutes to get out of what you were doing. It takes 15 minutes to get into what someone's talking about. 5 minutes to do the thing, and then 15 minutes to go back to what you were doing. And that's what happens when you take a phone call mid-thought. And that phone call might be okay because you're mid-thought. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So I know there's that feeling, but it's a scarcity mentality, and you want to have an abundance mentality with people when you're working with them. Sometimes there are the most important calls. Yeah, you should stop what you're doing and take the call. But sometimes, yeah, who knows? You'll get more calls, right? And if you have a controllable process for lead generation, there's less fear. For us, we know that if we were to call a bunch of offices, a bunch of businesses with sales teams, there would be a certain percentage of them that would let us to come do a workshop. And from that workshop, there'd be a certain percentage of people that probably want to talk to us. And there'd be a certain percentage of people that would buy from that. And that's all from me clicking things and not the market. And that's what you want for your business. Does that make sense?
Your business. See,
Yes.
that right there. Most agents just chase the deal. I gotta have a client, I gotta have a client, and they don't look at the big picture. You're not a business, you need to treat it like a business.
I don't think anybody gets into real estate to be stressed out of their mind and working crazy hours, correct?
No, they want to have their own schedule.
That's right. And that own schedule turns into...
I was working 60 to 80 hours a week, and I thought, oh yeah, I could just control my schedule.
And now you work 100 hours
So
a
I
week.
work 8:30 to 11 every day.
You know, and again, that's... you're going to have that out-of-state person come in looking at $1 million home at some point, right? And yeah, you'll probably drop everything for that person. But in the general routine of a week, right, with proper business planning, and if you believe that it's controllable and you build something that's controllable, that stress really does go away. We're not super stressed about revenue growth at the knowledge gap. If anything, we're just like planning it out. And that's how you really want it to be. You want to plan revenue, not hope for it.
Yeah, my husband and I, this year, we started, and it's actually working. We moved into a new house, and since we've been there, we have 10 acres now, and we love to
cool.
get outside and work on our land. And we've really been doing, I feel like, a good job of leaving our phones in the house. Saturday, Sundays kind of for us. Not saying that we don't work occasionally on weekends, but man, when I take the weekend off, I am so much more productive during the week.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot more productive. Yeah, I've probably lost a client here and there, but
So, I don't know how the rest of you all feel, but I have a guilt complex. Like when I'm working with a buyer, you know, the way that the housing market is, basically, if it's a good house, it's going to go like that. So I feel guilty if I don't get out and show that house, like when they call that day. So are you saying that's wrong, that we shouldn't feel that way? We should plan it out and say, okay, fine, if we miss it.
I think if your mission dictates that you go out there as fast as humanly possible because you care about that person and that's lining with what you're doing, there's nothing wrong with it at all, right? Does that make sense? Yeah. So there's no right or wrong of how you want to run your business. What she's talking about is most people don't have a business plan and they're just running after everything that comes their way. I worked with people where their average deal size was like land, like small pieces of land. I said, hey, like, how much time do you spend on that? Like 8 hours driving around. How much was it again? 30,000. How much you make? 700. You need to like not take those anymore. Or you need to do it all over the phone and just say that's how we do it.
I completely agree.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So yeah, you might be right at the right price. You know, when I was selling books, you know, one of the biggest reasons my sales, there was a summer I made like 80 grand 11 weeks. Like that was my take home or whatever, right? It was great. And the reason I did that wasn't because I was the perfect pitch best sales guy. It was because I got out of houses when they were no's faster or it wasn't worth my time. I just had a standard. We used to sell in units. Units were just a placeholder for value or commission. I used to say I got to be out with a yes or no in 19 minutes or less, or it's got to be a unit per minute that the sale ends up being. So if it's a 100-unit sale, I'd take an hour and a half, 100 minutes, 90 minutes. Does that make sense? But otherwise, I'd be out with a yes or no in 19 minutes. And because I was out with 19 minutes or less, I could just see more people. And sales, business in general, is just usually it's a numbers game, right? There's a certain percentage of the people who are in a process of buying or selling a home. That's why it's a $1 trillion market. Everyone's doing it. So you just have to find the people, right? If you're talking lead gen. So depends. That's the answer. It's not clear. If the commission's too low, maybe. If the commission's really high, okay, yeah, you might be dropping things. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Come up with that standard for yourself, right, based on your situation and based on your mission. If your mission, right, is to XYZ with the right person, you might have the people who want to plan, right, if it's an investor. I don't know if they're coming from out of town.
I'd say the other thing too is like,
yeah, it just depends.
when we talk about time blocking, most of the time it's when we're working with somebody and they just don't know what they're doing and when they're doing it. And so you can still time block, and maybe your mission is, hey, I deliver the fastest service in Knoxville.
That's
and if that's your mission, 100%. If you're time blocking and you get a phone call, hey, can we go see this house? Yeah, we'll go see it. But the time blocking really just helps identify
the correct activities.
Yeah, the correct activities, the right
Make
amount
sure they
of time
get done.
spent on it.
Yes.
And you're eliminating wasted time in your week, right? That's really the point of it. It's not to nitpick exactly what you're doing every minute.
Yeah.
It's to create visibility on where those gaps are.
You may have a Wednesday from 9 to 2 being times that you generally show, and you push people to that time, as an example. Does that make sense? And you just do all your showing from 9 to 2 on a Wednesday morning, and you never do afternoons because you have kids, and maybe you want to go hang out with your kids. It's just like, depends on what your mission, vision, values are. It depends on the structure you'd like to have for your business. And usually people are like, oh, hey, this is a last minute call. I really appreciate you calling me. We're going to be able to see this within 24 hours. I usually show people in the mornings. Would that be okay with you? No? Okay. Then we'll do it tonight. It's just, it depends. You can come up with your own strategy on how you might want to deal with that. But I'm not for a low ROI for your time. I think your time is worth a certain amount. I don't know if I sat down with Charles and talked about, like, what's your hourly rate based on how much you'd like to make, based on 50 hours a week for a year. If your hourly rate's worth $100 or $200 or $500, that's a certain amount for the year that it's worth. And so you should know how many transactions you need, what the average transaction needs to be, your package size, right, what you're selling, in order to hit that. And you might decide that you need to pass off a certain amount of deals as referrals so you can get the bigger ones. Makes sense? Because if you're working with a small deal, you're not working with a big deal. If that's something that you care about, for example. Does that make sense? So you need a strategy to make sure you're not getting wasted time so you can work on the big ones with the biggest commissions in this case.
For me on the time blocking was because my husband had a stroke last year.
Mm-hmm.
And that made me really think that we have taken our lives to where we put so much pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And we've made all this money and we're not going to be able to enjoy spending it. Because I usually spend 2 to 3 months at the end of the year working on my business plan. It takes me forever to do my business plan.
Yep.
But my business plan for this year was more about my life and less about putting emphasis on business, which I made less money this year, but I feel better about life now, and now things are really starting to click and fall into place. But the biggest thing for me on that whole time blocking thing was taking back my weekends. So I've got an agent. I sling him cash. You know, if I've got somebody who wants to see something on the weekend, like, hey, $50, will you go show this house for me?
Sure. Yeah, I think having those partnerships are huge.
Yeah. And I mean, it's just helped me so much because I have something to look forward to, because for years I had nothing to look forward to. Angie and I worked together. When I pulled her in with me, I was that close to getting out of real estate because I was going days without sleep. I couldn't even remember if I took a shower. You know, it was not a good life.
For example, one of your values is family, right?
It is, yeah.
If that's a value, hey, so when you're doing your buyer's consult, your listing consult, right? Hey, one of our big values, because you'd have a slide or something, or a handout, however you do it. I don't know. Everyone does it a little different. I recommend a slideshow. But one of our values is family. And so, I don't know how are you guys on the weekends with family? Is that kind of family time? Cool, us too. You know, if we schedule 2 weeks in advance, then that's okay. But if it's a last minute drop of the hat, one of our families is found. That's why we work with so many families like you guys. You know, does that make sense?
Somebody's free on the weekends and this when they want to show houses.
Yeah, that's,
On houses.
yeah, that's fine. And you can do it however you want, because it's really about the relationship with the client when you're there and what you want to put forth. And again, if you market and you sell yourself as family values and you work with families or something, they're probably all going to be like, oh, sweet, you know, can we do a Thursday night? Can we do whatever? Based on a family schedule that might be better with them, you might find a quicker way, a better way to get them to go see or whatever. And again, sometimes you may just at the drop of a hat.
Date night and schedule. I
Yeah,
schedule.
exactly. Time block. You time block in family time. Exactly.
Yeah. If I want to do something with my kids or
Yeah.
my husband.
But I just
I
started doing
schedule
that
it in.
this year, though, because
Yeah.
another thing that hurt me really bad was last year, my daughter, she said, Mom, the only thing I want for my birthday is I want us to go out for lunch, and I don't want you bringing your phone. And that really hurt my feelings. And I thought, okay, there's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, my phone used to ring and Chelsea and Brian would just roll their eyes and.
Why are you laughing about that?
You know,
There is a problem.
I'll mention another thing. We're running out of time, but I will mention, you know, all of these things you guys may talk about. If you are somebody who's stressed out, going crazy, you might be somebody who might want to start a team or hire an assistant to kind of take some of those calls off you. If you just had an assistant that was working a certain percentage of the time, taking phone calls when you didn't want to, it'd probably be worth every penny for the amount of family time you might get. And they'll probably get you more deals because anything you would miss, you're not missing. There's probably a good value proposition of why you might do that. I think a lot of people in real estate try to do it themselves. One of the things I told Charles to do, which he's now doing, and testing out some resources, is a TC. If you're not using a TC, you're losing out on revenue because your time is worth more than it costs for a TC to save you time.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
And that's like a business building. That's a topic we could all go into at some point at a future one if we did a team building, or how do you build a structure around you, because that's what we love doing for people, is helping build that. And I think Charles is working on a team now, and that's one of those ways where you have like these people in your corner to help you. And when we work with Erin Cooper, she's got like 4 or 5 realtors, and they all work together to help each other, because one of their biggest values as a team is flexibility. So they all have this mutual agreement where they'll go help and support each other based on what's happening with their families.